Welcome back, everybody, to the Real Talk podcast. First and foremost, I want to start off by saying thank you to all the listeners and subscribers and Facebook followers we've been getting the last few weeks. We appreciate it, and again, thank you. With us tonight, we have our very first special guest, Jeremy. He's going to be joining Justin, and they're going to be talking a little bit about hockey. First and foremost, I want us to start off by asking you guys about the CBA and the lockout this off season, and you guys to start on it and just go from there.
Well, personally, I think it could have got done a lot sooner than it did. I think it was all just a lot of bullshit business, and the whole billionaires versus millionaires thing, and it wasn't until they really had to get something going that they got it done, and it was everything that they proposed to begin with. Everything that needed to be done.
It had no business dragging out as long as it did. That's for sure.
No, absolutely not, and it was just, if you notice when they finally set a deadline and they finally were like, okay, this is it, we're canceling, that's when shit got done. And it was like the reason why nothing got done before was because the owners just could walk away. They didn't care.
Well, they kept pushing up pushing back the deadline. It seemed like every 2 weeks and up until like the last month of getting the deal done that it was, this is the deadline, this is the date. If nothing gets done, we're done. I mean, when did we start playing? We started playing in February. I mean, I remember them saying, New Year's was the deadline, and then January 16th was the deadline, and we ended up going all the way to the end of January.
Yeah, I think it was like January 20th, somewhere around there was like the first games and stuff like that. But I mean, and then they canceled the Winter Classic and the All-Star game. Like those don't even matter, Like who cares?
I like the Winter Classic. The All-Star game, I could really care less about.
I like the Winter Classic too, but at the end of the day, it's a regular season game. That's it.
Yeah, I mean that's true. But we have I was at the Winter Classic, so.
The thing that really pissed me off is with this proposal, before they got it done, was all these teams, including the Pens signing Crosby, to those ridiculous 12, 13-year deals over.
Yeah, that was friggin' Sutter and Parise signed those 10-year deals. For hundreds of millions of dollars, and then the owners want to go back and say, well, we don't want those deals. Well, then why did you just sign all these guys to these big deals?
I think it was absolutely ridiculous, and I think they did it knowing that it was going to be, that they could get away with like pulling back or pulling out or whatever, and. I thought that was all bullshit. I thought it was just a lot of games and a lot of politics that didn't need to be there. And at the end of the day, the hockey players want to play. That's what they do. And these owners, they made their money somewhere else. They didn't make it through hockey owning teams.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my. I mean, I think what is it, 7 or 8 years?
It's a 10-year deal, I think, with an opt-out after 8 years. At least it's a long deal that we're not going to have any kind of lockout for the foreseeable future, at least.
Right. And they agreed with the contract lengths and stuff like that, and the salary cap is actually going down next year.
Yeah, that I don't know if I like.
I mean, I get it. Again, the whole point of this is to make all the teams competitive, but the markets for them and stuff like that. I mean, you got the big markets. You've got Pittsburgh, you've got Philly, but
right. There's no reason Columbus should have a team. I don't think you need the Florida Panthers when you've got the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, just my opinion. Phoenix is league owned. There's no reason you need to try and salvage that team in Phoenix.
No, I agree, and that brings me actually to the realignment, which is happening next year, which I think is awesome, personally.
Yeah, I like the realignment. I think it's kind of a shame that you're moving. I don't necessarily like the fact that the Eastern Conference is going to have 16 teams and the Western Conference is going to have 14 teams. Detroit's moving to the East and Columbus is moving to the East. It kind of sucks that if you're a Detroit or a Chicago fan, that's no longer going to be a rivalry.
Well, I think it will be. I just think they'll play instead of six times a year. They'll play
6.
4.
Yeah, they'll play twice.
Right, but Detroit being in the Eastern Conference, I think not only makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of good rivalries. I mean, us and Detroit, Boston, Detroit, New York, Detroit. Like, I think
Yeah, I
pretty
agree
much
with
every
that. I think
team has a beef with Detroit. You know.
yeah, but Detroit definitely should have been in the East, and I have no problems with Columbus being in the East. I mean, but I do kind of have a problem with Columbus being in the league in general. So
Well,
there's that.
I agree, and the thing is too, like at least with them being in the East, more teams that draw, for instance, like the Pens, like the Bruins, like the Rangers, like the Flyers, teams that people want to see are going to be in Columbus more, bringing more people. I just see it as a good economic thing for Columbus in general.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it they got some good players in the last couple seasons. We shipped Jeff Carter off to him.
Oh yeah, dude, the LA
well,
Flyers with
well, they ended
Richards
up
and Carter.
fuck that.
Did that hurt a little
But
bit?
just a little, just a little.
I bet, man.
But I mean, Columbus got Jeff Carter, but then they traded him. They got a first round pick, which ended up being the 31st pick in the draft. So that must have sucked terribly.
Well, I actually just read an article today that instead of doing 16-14 East to West, they were talking about adding two more teams in the West to make it 16-16 and then have it 32 teams. And in terms of
Well,
the
I don't
Western
think the league
Conference,
needs more teams. I think
well, it
the
depends.
league needs less
It,
teams.
it depends where the market is. I mean, you can easily have another team in Canada somewhere. Dude, you could do. I even just read that Toronto was thinking of getting a second team, which is like ridiculous. But
The fucking Maple Leafs haven't even been in the playoffs in the last 10 years.
oh, I know, but apparently, they're the Stanley Cup contenders every single year.
Oh my god. Well, more power to them, I guess.
And I gotta say, just because like being a Pens fan and living in Boston and seeing Kessel go to Toronto and him like doing
Oh, that had
shit.
to hurt a little. But
Oh,
I
I
mean,
don't.
he lost Kessel, but I was like, he's not doing well. But that was still a bit of a hit at Boston at the time.
Yeah, I mean, dude, believe me, I actually have nothing against the Bruins. It's more Bruins fans that just drive me nuts, and just New England fans in general, because over the past 10 years they've certainly developed this entitlement, and
Yeah.
dude, I bleed black and gold, and I get shit up here all the time
I'm
because
orange
yeah,
and
I know,
black,
yeah, I know what you are,
all the way.
but I always get shit because they're like, oh, the Pens stole the Bruins colors and whatever, I don't care. But my point is, as a Penguins fan up here, just seeing like players that were in Boston. I mean, like Joe Thornton in San Jose.
Oh, I actually like San Jose is my West Coast team. If I had to pick a West Coast team, I would take San Jose. I have a Joe Thornton jersey from San Jose, not Boston.
You just went up a notch in my book, even though you're a Flyers fan. It's okay.
Yeah, nah. But I don't know how I feel about the 16 teams in the East and the 14 teams in the West. And I would be all right if Canada got more teams. I mean, I would move Phoenix out. I would move Phoenix out. If you want to put them in Canada, go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. The same thing with Florida, though. I would move Florida all the way. It doesn't matter where you move them. Tampa's doing well, but Florida, I mean, like, does anybody even give a shit about Florida? Honestly.
Well, they're not having a bad year this year.
No, they're not a bad team, and they're one of those sneaky teams too, where you think they suck and then they all end up always beating you.
Yeah, I mean they've beaten. I think we're 1-2 against them this year, something ridiculous. I just hope we make the playoffs. I'd like to see us backdoor our way into the playoffs.
Well, I got to tell you, just from that playoff series last year,
that was an awesome playoff series.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm honestly going to go ahead and say, yeah, it was. Because you will never see anything like that again,
That's terrible goaltending.
A terrible goaltending, terrible defense, and that's the thing. Like, even though you guys spanked us without a doubt, and I admit that as much as that hurts. But I was the only person where, after we lost, I was like, "There's no way Philly's going to get past the second round. They're just not." And
swept by Boston, right? Were we swept by Boston then?
What's that?
We're swept by Boston then, weren't we?
No, you went down 4-1 against New Jersey.
That was the year before.
The year before? No, that was
no. Boston
year.
Was the year before. Yeah, you're right. Jersey, we went down 4-1 to Jersey, but the year before is the year we got swept out by Boston. That was your revenge for us coming back on you in 7.
Which I gotta say that was awesome. By the way, I'm not gonna lie,
that
because
was sweet.
That was the year that was the year that Chicago beat you guys in the finals.
And I was at that game. sitting 12 rows up from where that goal was scored.
Oh my God, that's rough.
Yeah, we had no idea what happened. We didn't even know where the puck was. All we saw was Patrick Kane celebrating, and I think I died a little.
Hey man, with the year that the Pens lost to Detroit in 6.
I didn't even watch that second year when you guys found Detroit won the cup the first year, right?
Right,
and you guys won
right.
the second.
Yeah.
I didn't even watch the second year just because I didn't want to see the same two teams in the Stanley Cup.
Oh, but that was so good. Well, for me, obviously.
Wow,
But,
I hate Malkin.
how can you say that?
I dislike Sidney Crosby.
Well, of course you do.
But he's awesome. He's awesome, but I dislike Sidney Crosby.
Well,
I
let me
do
ask
not
you
like
this:
Malkin though.
what's because usually people hate Crosby more, and I'm used to this.
I can respect the Crosby thing because he's good. Malkin's just he's dirty. He's dirty.
You think? See, I don't understand why everybody thinks he's dirty. I think he plays on the line, but I think all the superstars play on the line. Even Giroux, I mean, he gets to be a little. I think they all want to win, and they get frustrated. But like, I'm very interested to hear this. Like, why do you think Malkin's dirty?
Malkin, I don't know. Maybe it's a jealousy thing. I know that you got him and we don't, but I don't think I'd want him. I think he's just legitimately dirty. I think he headhunts.
You think so? You think
I think
he
headhunts a little. I think he
Dude,
headhunts a little.
Let me just tell you, I've been a Pens fan for my whole life, so I did not jump on the bandwagon when we got Sid and when we got Malkin, and I was a fan in the early 2000s when we had no one, and
yeah, those are the dark days between Yager and Lemieux and Sid and Malkin.
Dude, that was rough. But I like to think that I'm a pretty like down to earth Pens fan. Like I'm not. I'm a fan of the game, and as much as
that's what I try to explain that to my friends all the time.
Because go ahead.
Well, like even when the Flyers were playing the Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup, we have season tickets. We have season tickets 12 rows off the ice, and I remember going to a hotel before a game against the Blackhawks, and it was the Blackhawks hotel, and we went to Heckle.
Sure.
And I remember calling, Dustin Bufflin. I think I called him Bifuglian or something. Like I pronounced his name out, and he gave me a dirty look. But you know what? I got a Patrick Kane autograph. I got a Jonathan Taves autograph. It's just I just like hockey, man. I'll sit down and I will watch a hockey game. It doesn't matter who's playing. I'll watch it.
Yeah, dude, I'm the same way. But my point is I consider myself like you said, like you're a fan of hockey, and I honestly I'll be the first one to admit that Matt Cook has done some shitty, disgusting, stupid fucking things, and that, I was embarrassed.
The last thing he got in trouble for, I don't think that was his fault.
No, not at all.
His when he gets stomped in the back of the leg there.
Oh yeah, dude, no, and like a couple when the year, not last year, but the year before when Cook, he hit Savard, and then I think a year later he hit Ryan McDonough from the Rangers, and I was so mad because it was so blatant and so stupid, and that's just not, to me, that's not how the Penguins play. That's not how they are, so that's why I'm very, I'm a pretty even keel dude when it comes to our guys, but I've never seen Malkin, in my opinion, honest to Christ, and I'm being honest, I never thought he headhunted. I never thought that he did cheap shots or dirty plays. I just think he plays hard.
Maybe not. Okay, maybe headhunt's the wrong word, but I've definitely seen him throw some elbows, throw some punches at people that were, I'm all for the fighting. I love the fighting in the game, but he just seems like he's got a little bit of an attitude, and that's
sure,
good.
dude.
I love a little bit of an attitude, but it just bugs me. And maybe it's because he's a Penguin. I don't know.
I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. But I don't see him as being dirty. I mean, I think Sid, honestly, is dirtier than Malkin is. I mean, that dude, when he gets frustrated, dude, he's going to take little shots at you and stuff like that. But he takes them back. He gets them back.
I love the shots we give him. Oh
yeah,
that playoff series, they had him the whole series. I remember seeing him skate to the bench, and Shen just comes up behind, just gives him a cross check, down he goes. Looking just like. Yeah.
I remember that. Oh, I remember that. Let me ask you, how excited were you when you saw Giroux light him up?
Oh, and that first shift, it's what we call it. We call it the shift.
Yeah, well, payback's a bitch, buddy.
They still play that. They still play that clip.
Oh, I'm sure they do. And believe me, if I was a Flyers fan, I would be all over that. But trust me when I say this, that Sid is just, he remembers, you know. But that being said, I think that was a really good series. But I knew the Flyers were not going to make it past the second round, especially against the Devils.
I honestly thought we'd beat the Devils, and I don't remember who was in that other series, who the other two teams were that were left. Who did the Devils beat to make
It
it to the
was
Cup?
because they made it to the finals. Oh, the Rangers. They played the Rangers after that.
Did they beat the Rangers?
Yeah, they beat the Rangers, and then they lost to L.A.
I'm trying to remember who the Rangers beat then, because I remember thinking we can beat the Devils. What do you think of Marty? Marty's hurt, isn't he, right now?
Marty Brodeur? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's still hurt. And Hedberg used to play for the Pens like 10 years ago. Over 10 years ago. The Moose.
Didn't the Flyers draft Hedberg?
Honestly, I don't even know. I know we had him.
He's one of those Atlantic Division travelers there.
Yeah, he was just, and he's the same age as Marty. He's pretty old too. Like, he's in his late 30s.
I didn't even realize he was as old as he was until I was playing NHL 13 the other day.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you guys this year, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's. I think what's his name, Brizgalov? Is that your goalie?
Yeah.
Dude, he's got some issues, and believe me, I'm not riding my high horse here because Fleury certainly does too. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like, remember when? And I'm not doing this to be a dick, but remember when Laviolette said that Drew was the best player in the world? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened?
He got the C, man. It's the curse of the Philadelphia C. Same thing happened with Chris Pronger. Done forever.
Well, that was that was he Crosby supposedly passed that baton to Giroux, and I think the stat right now is Crosby has either more or as many points as Giroux and Ovechkin combined right now, I think.
Well, Washington's not done a damn thing under Adam Oates. I mean, speaking of dirty players, Ovechkin is a dirty player.
Yes, can we agree on that? He goes for knee on knee all the time.
Yeah. We just played them a couple weeks ago, and he took a high stick along the boards, and it wasn't even a bad high stick. Like, it caught him in the neck, It was a high stick, and, they caught him for a penalty for it. But he went down on both knees and threw his head back like he had been shot. And this was on NBC Sports. So Mike Milbury and Keith Jones were, doing it. And Milbury just blasted Ovechkin for like 2 minutes, saying it was a disgrace to the game,
First of all, Milbury should talk, but
anyway. But it was just great to hear, because anyone sitting there listening to it was just like, yes, keep going, just egging him on to just keep talking about how it was just ridiculous. It looked like he got shot. He should apologize to his teammates. The ref had his arm up. It was a penalty. It was a blatant high stick.
Right, and
but you didn't draw blood, and you barely got hit to begin with.
Well, the thing, and they're supposedly like cracking down on these embellishments and these dives. I think I might have seen that penalty called twice this year in all the games that I've watched, not just Penguin games.
I mean that's why we hate Ovechkin, because he dives.
Oh, he dives, dude.
When we had that playoff series where we won in 7 in overtime, I can't remember when that was, in 07 or 08 or something like that. It was nonstop. Him just flailing all over the place.
And he's a big dude. And he's strong. Like, he's, and I respect him for the powerhouse that he is. I mean, that dude, what a shot he has. But he does the same move every single time. And people just know how to defend him now.
I was just going to say that I think people have figured him out.
Plus, don't you think he looks really goofy when he really starts skating? Like, when he, like, puts his head down, he's, like, chugging along. He looks like such a prick every time he does that. I don't know.
He's got his. I don't like his hockey pants either. With that big old back piece.
Yeah, like all the way up his back. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And he looks like a caveman. I mean, he looks like Malkin. Him and Malkin. It must be a Russian thing.
It's definitely a Russian thing. It's definitely a Russian thing. But they got a pretty good rivalry going. I mean, they always have. I dig it. I like watching them play.
Ovechkin and Crosby?
No, Ovechkin and Malkin. I don't even think Crosby and Ovechkin's a rivalry anymore.
Nah, I agree with them.
They'll push it and they'll push it, but I would rather see, give me a Pens Flyers game any day. Give me Pens Tampa Bay, Pens Detroit, Pens Boston. I don't Washington. Like they should have listened to Boudreaux. Instead, they ran him out, and now they're dog shit.
Yeah, who do they have? Oh, they got Adam Oates. Yeah.
Yeah, and Dale Hunter.
Dale Hunter didn't even last year, did he?
He didn't want anything to do with it. He was like, I'm done. Like, fuck this.
What made me laugh is they fired Bruce Boudreaux, and a day later, wasn't he coaching the Anaheim Ducks?
Yeah, and look how good Anaheim is doing this year.
Yeah, they've got what 3 losses all year. The second best team in the league.
Yeah, yeah, they are.
What do you think? Blackhawks finally losing one. Did they lose last night? They were
Yeah,
losing when I
they
looked at
lost to
Edmonton.
Edmonton. Yeah, I think the Blackhawks, what they did was incredible, but it's, you're riding that momentum, and then I think teams get intimidated by that. And then, I mean, it was a matter of time. You're going to lose a game in regulation, and I wouldn't be surprised if they lost a couple more in a row. And then the thing about hockey is it's ebb and flow. And it always even itself out. Always. You know, I just think that them losing, and I mean, they'll lose a few more times. Same thing with teams like Anaheim. They're going to lose a couple. Same thing with Boston. They're going to lose a couple. It's just the way the hockey goes. I think I'm just surprised how well teams have been doing, how well teams have been playing. One of the surprises of the shortened season, just how well teams have been playing all around. You know what I mean?
I don't know. It's just surprising to see how many teams have single digit losses when we're 25 games into the season, something like that.
Absolutely.
Anaheim's got 3, Boston's got 4 or 5.
I don't even think
Jersey's,
they have that, man.
Yeah, the Blackhawks have 2. There's so many teams that are doing so well in the shortened season. It's just there is no middle team right now. It seems like either you're really good or you're struggling in the back of the pack.
But I got to tell you, even the teams that are struggling, like, they can still win. Like, that's the thing. I really firmly, truly believe that this year, above all other years, at least within the Eastern Conference, that any team can beat any team on any night. Like, there is no guarantee. I really honestly believe that.
Yeah, I mean that's why I'm hoping the Flyers can sneak in here. I mean, we've got 3 games in 13 days. This is like the slowest part of our schedule. So.
Well, that's good, dude. A lot of rest and a lot of, get your shit together,
Yeah, but we're a couple games ahead of teams, have a couple more games played, so it's, after these next 13 days, it's really going to even itself out, in terms of games played, and you're really kind of going to see where your team sits.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Well, the Pens, we've got 5 in a row, and a few of those teams, as of right now, are not in the playoffs. Now, we have the Bruins tomorrow. I'm very excited for that. I just want to see where we're at. And I'm looking for a good game,
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a good one. I'll probably go to the bar and watch that. You guys are 18-8.
Yeah, we've been.
Montreal, man, is 17-5.
Did you watch the Pens play the Canadiens last week?
I think I may have had it on, but I don't remember watching it.
Dude, that was it was really entertaining, but it was one of those games where, like, it makes me fear for the playoffs once again with the lack of defense. I think we won 6-5 or 7-6 in 7-6. We won 7-6 in overtime. And the only thing that makes me feel okay is that we scored 7 goals against Montreal, who plays that really, like, trap defense, which annoys the shit out of me. But
they're the New Jersey Devils of.
Yeah. And our coach right now is our old coach, but like, just horrendous goaltending.
Who's Montreal's coach?
Michael Therrien, who was our coach when we went to the finals.
Oh, that's right. It's Michel.
Yeah, Michel Therrien.
Michel.
He has a really famous like, press conference where he calls all the Penguins players soft. Not soft.
I think I remember that.
Oh my god, it's hilarious, dude. He said they're soft.
Boston's 16-3-3. It's just kind of jam-packed in there. I'll tell you, like, just now that I'm looking at the standings, like, that's another thing that kind of concerns me about the realignment, is that there's 16 teams in the East and the 14 teams in the West. I mean, it's easier to get into the playoffs in the West, obviously, and 8 teams, that's more than half the teams are going to make the playoffs in the West. It's going to be this, and you got to think that in stretches of years, it's going to be the same teams playing.
Right. No, I mean, but that's again, I agree with you, and I know what you're saying, but that's supposed to be what this whole CBA is about, and bringing the cap down to make all the teams more competitive. And yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think that's,
and I don't know if I like the cap going down. You're going to see a lot more role players, a lot more, guys that
right.
You're not going to be able to afford Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Pascal Dupuis, Marc-Andre Fleury. You're not going to be able to afford, Claude Giroux on this and a Simone Gagne in his prime, Ilya Brizgalov, Kimo Timonen, all on the same team. You're not going to see anything like that. Chicago is going to be in trouble. I mean, Chicago
Oh
might be
yeah.
coming quickly to the end of their. They were in cap trouble as soon as they won their Stanley Cup. That's why they had to dump Bufflin off.
Well, it's because they signed Hossa for whatever ridiculous deal they gave. But I think we're gonna. I mean, Crosby's locked up probably for the rest of his career. We have him for 12, 13 more years. I'm sure that we'll sign Malkin for another 8.
That's the cap, I think, right? 8 years.
Yeah,
And
now it's 8 years.
Sid'll get hit with another concussion. He's the next Eric Lindros.
I don't think so. I really, really don't think so. And if that happens, I'm gonna be really mad at you. But no, I don't think so.
Calling it right now. I was hoping he was done last time.
Oh, really, man?
Nah.
Rough.
Hey, what are you gonna do?
No, because you know what, dude? His second concussion, you can't see me do the quote things. That was more his neck than anything that was giving him his symptoms. We fired our entire medical team after last season because they misdiagnosed Sid. That's really what it came down to.
Yeah, I remember that. Even here in Philly, they were covering that. I mean, because he's, as much as you hate to admit it, the face of the game.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, sometimes, I mean, I got tired of that whole concussion thing. I was like, all right, I get it, I'm with you. But, that was more of just a misdiagnosis. And I think I mean, whether you want to admit it or not, I mean, the shit he's doing right now is...
He leads the league in scoring. I mean...
But he's playing on a level that he didn't even play at before he got his concussion. And he was dominating before he got hurt,
Yeah, he came back there for a while, and you were kind of thinking, where the hell did he go? Because, I mean, he came back, halfway through last year?
He came back in November of last year, and then he got
hurt again, didn't he?
Yeah, against the Bruins, actually. He just, I mean, just, because the Bruins are always physical, and, he took a couple bumps, and he had symptoms again.
It's that Milan Lucic, man.
Was it Lucic? No, it was Krejci, I think, that hit him. It was a clean hit.
They're all bruisers. They're all bangers.
Yeah, I dig their style, dude. They play hard. I got nothing against the Bees with how they play. But what he just took a couple shots, and it was more of a neck thing to begin with. Like his first concussion, it was more of a neck injury, and that's what was prolonging his symptoms. That was, and it was just completely misdiagnosed because he took the concussion test again when they thought he had a second concussion, and he passed, but he kept having the symptoms. So they didn't know what the hell was going on. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of a shame because we kind of went through the same thing with Chris Pronger. I mean, you saw that stick he took to the eye. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard. I was there at that game. I don't think I've ever heard anybody scream that loudly. And it was I was sitting on the other side of the arena, and you could hear him screaming.
Is that what is that what it was? He took a stick to the eye.
Well, he had the concussion, and I can't remember how he got the initial concussion. He came back maybe a month later, and it was a game against Winnipeg. And he went out to contest a shot, and the guy took the shot, and the follow-through, his stick came up and caught him in the eye. He hasn't played a game since. And that was November 2011, so it's been almost a year and a half. And just last week, he had a press conference for the first time, and basically saying he was battling depression, because he couldn't play, and that's why we hadn't heard from him, essentially. I mean, he basically went from having... a 30-year-old man's eyes to having a 60-year-old man's eyes. He has no peripheral vision. I mean, it's just constant headaches every day. Any kind of excessive exercising or anything that accelerates his heartbeat gets him lightheaded. It's just a damn shame.
Jesus, I actually just read that the other day, and I had no idea. I thought he took a hit. I had no idea he took a stick to the eye, and that's nuts, dude. And that's scary, and that's a whole because didn't Mark Stahl just take a puck or a stick to the eye, and now
in
they're
a
all
Flyers
talking about
game, I think.
Yeah, and now they're all talking about everybody's going to start wearing the visor, and I think they should. I mean, for fuck's sake, like, you know, if Steven Stamkos, again, it was a playoff game against the Bruins, he took a puck right to the face. If he didn't have that visor on, and the visor itself came down and broke his nose, but if he didn't have that visor on, I mean, that would have shattered his face. Absolutely shattered his face.
Was it like a couple years ago? You remember Ian LePerrier for the Flyers took that shot to the face against the Devils?
God damn, yeah. I mean, I personally, I never like to see any player get hurt ever.
What are you gonna do? He's not gonna. He'll never play again, and he's on the books for the next 5 years.
He thinks he will. I don't know if he thinks he will, but it's definitely his.
Okay, he wants to, and he won't say he's retiring, and I think that's just kind of out of respect for the Flyers organization, because if he retires,
Did that guy get a penalty for that?
I don't remember. It was what, a year and a half ago. I'm sure he got something.
He should have, because you always have to be responsible for your stick. So.
Yeah, that was definitely some sloppy use there.
All right. So, other question is, what do you think of the trade deadlines, or do you even know when that is this year?
I think that's in a couple weeks. I think it's the last week in March, something like that. It's in a couple weeks. Who's going to be a seller? Who's going to be a buyer? Yeah. I don't know if Chicago has the cap space, but if they start losing, I bet they look to do something, just to add a winger or something. I hope.
I don't know. They might just go with what they have in terms of Chicago. I mean, shit, they did win get a point in the first 24 games.
I would love to see the Flyers make a move. I would be willing to give up Couturier.
Let me tell you something. I would take that guy in a second just because he pisses us off so much.
And you know what? I love the kid.
What about, I've heard rumors of Briere going. What do you think about that?
Yeah, they keep saying Briere to St. Louis. I don't know what you'd get in return for him. I know St. Louis is a good team. I don't know trade piece-wise, but from what I've heard around here is he will not waive his no-trade clause.
Really? So he wants to finish his career in Philly. How about that? I'd take Briere. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, they interviewed him, and when they interviewed him, he said when he signed his contract in Philly, it was to end his career in Philly. Which, I mean, is understandable. I mean, people got families that don't want to be moving around too much, especially with kids.
He's a good guy, too. He does a lot of shit for, the community, and I know he does he does a lot of things with, cancer research and cancer funding and stuff like that.
He's a good dude. I've always liked Danny Briere. I mean, I remember when we signed him, I flipped shit. Because he used to destroy us in the playoffs.
Oh, he destroys us now, so.
Well, he's a point a game. He's Mr. Playoffs.
Oh, he is. He does. Yeah, you would never know that guy existed until Game 1 of the playoffs. And by the way, while we're talking about playoffs, can we just say, so Game 1 last year against the Flyers, Pens and Flyers, we were up, what was it, 3-0?
You were up
2-0?
3-0. 3-0, and we came back and won 4-3.
Yeah, you came back and won 4-3 because that first goal that Briere scored was offside.
I think I remember that. I think I remember that setting.
And I remember seeing that shit, and there's turning points in series, and I remember thinking that right there.
But you can't think that in game. Nothing that happens in Game 1 is going to turn the tide of a series.
Dude, I gotta tell you,
because you guys started turning the tide in Game 4. I mean, we were up 3-0, and I thought you guys were going to come back and tie it 3-3.
Well, the whole mantra as a Pens fan was Pens in 7, and I guess you're right. You can't look at that as in Game 1, but in hindsight, that is what turned the tide. You know what I mean?
In that game, maybe.
Dude, in that series, because then that showed that you guys could come back from any lead. Aside from the 10-4 game that we had in Game 4, I think it was. But
that was disgusting.
I don't think I screamed so loud for 10 goals in my life, man. But not that you see it that often. But no, I'm dead serious because we were up 3-0. You get that, you come back, you win in overtime, and it's holy shit. And then I think Game 2, we were up 2-0 again, and you came back and won that one. And then
yes, the beer breakers there.
Yeah, and then what happened in Game 3? I think you guys just smoked us in Game 3.
I think we smoked it, yeah. Because We had home ice in that, didn't we?
Yeah,
And I just
no,
remember thinking
we had home ice, and then you obviously won the
you
first two in the
did.
Berg.
You did have home ice because I remember
Yeah.
saying like we got to at least get one out of Pittsburgh, and when we took both, I was like, that's it, sweep.
And what's funny is that reminded me of the early series or the early 2000 series when I think it was like we won the first two in Philly, and then games 3 and 4 both went to overtimes, like ridiculous
Yeah.
overtimes, and we lost both of them. And then we won the first two in Philly, then you guys came back and won the next 4, and I was so pissed about that. But
Nothing will top the 7 overtimes or whatever it was, the 5 overtimes.
yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, the one with Ron Tugnut, for Pittsburgh, and but. Yeah, we won Game 5. I think it was like 3. It was like the only defensive game that there was. And then fucking Game 6 where Giroux lights up Crosby. Oh, I was so mad. That dude pissed me off.
Opening shift was great.
Ugh. Did you read the eulogy that the Pens blog did for the Flyers? Because it was outstanding.
Yes, I did.
It was a good eulogy, my man.
I think he then wrote a eulogy for Pittsburgh in return or something like that. And I actually thought it was better.
Well, I think you guys did the Pittsburgh. Somebody, I think, did some Philly.
Maybe the Philly eulogy was retaliation. I don't remember.
No, because well, of course it was, but we I know the guys at the Pens blog called. We ate your eulogy. The guy from the Philly site, whatever, and I think
fucking Yinzers.
I think it was pretty unanimous that every Pittsburgh fan knew that the Flyers were not going to beat the Devils, and we just couldn't wait for that eulogy from the Pens blog. And that was
I don't remember what it said. I remember looking at it and going, hey, that's pretty good.
Well, there was a tombstone, and it was rest in peace, Claude Giroux, the best player in the world, and it was like, April 11th. 2011 through, May 1st, 2011.
Trade deadline, man. I don't know. I don't know who's a buyer, who's a seller. It's so hard to figure out in a shortened season.
Well, exactly. And the other thing is too, they
and no one knows with the cap space issues.
Well,
I don't see it being a very busy trade deadline.
I don't either. And I mean, who really is out there on the market? That's the other thing.
We need defense. I know that.
Oh, we need defense, man. I'm not. Unless we really get our shit together, like we need defense. I mean, I don't know. We need a system. I mean, yeah, it's great. We have the most goals in the league, but if you look at our goals against, it's really high too. It's not something that I'm proud of.
Well, Fleury needs to get his head out of his ass.
It's not just Fleury. Like, have you noticed? Okay, I'm going to throw this out there. Have you noticed that in the games this year, at least against the Pens and the Flyers, aside from Game 1. The first game of the season, where Giroux had that really pretty tap and pass, and I admit it, that was a pretty goal. That Hartnell did that pass. What other goal have you guys had that has been a direct shot? It didn't deflect. That there wasn't stupid crazy amounts of traffic.
Though. I mean,
of course it is, but I'm serious about that. Like, you can't really blame Fleury on that. It's more our defense. I mean, and it's the
same with ours. I haven't blamed Brizgalov for any loss this year, really.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Fleury definitely lets a soft one in here and there, and Vokun so far has. I mean, I'm like, dude, come on! Like, I would have saved that. And
Swiss cheese. He signed him to be a solid backup, and that's a shame what happened to him, man. He figured he would get a big contract, starting job. He's been a backup for the last couple years, and not a good one either.
Well, he had a good game against the Islanders yesterday, which is good to see.
It's not hard to have a good game against the Islanders.
Hey, man, you know what? The Islanders, don't knock them because they got a lot of good young kids, and I mean they have Tavares, and they scare me. Like they've always given us trouble.
But how do you let P.A. Parento, or was that his name? How do you let him just walk away on an offer sheet from Colorado? Come on.
I don't know. But they got that.
You do not let your restricted free agents sign offer sheets. You just don't.
By the way, did you see all that shit about DiPietro and stuff like that?
They sent him down, didn't they? Yeah,
they sent him down. But did you hear about the interview that he did where he was like,
no, what's going on?
Oh, he gave an interview that said it's been really rough, and there were times where I thought about, driving my car into a tree and
What?
yeah, oh yeah, and it's like, he's like, "Oh, the fans ripped my heart out," and I'm completely paraphrasing here, but he's still under contract for the next like 10 years.
Yeah, Garcon
He's
signed him to that
making a
15-year deal.
shit ton of money, so it doesn't matter where he plays. It doesn't matter if he doesn't play. He's getting a shit ton of money. Like, what are you bitching about, man? Like,
Yeah. He's making a shitload of money to play minor league hockey.
yeah, and he got pulled his first game, by the way.
Did he really? What a
Yes,
bum.
he did. Yes, he did. What do you think of? I wanted to ask you this. Like, what do you think of the refs this year?
Aside from 1 or 2 games, I haven't really had anything bad to say. What about you?
I think they're completely inconsistent. Completely inconsistent. I've seen boarding, and I've watched a lot of Bruins games just because they're on, all the time in Boston. But
Right. Yeah.
I work with a dude that is absolutely insane. I'm not kidding when I say that. Like, he's kind of like a Rain Man type guy, and he hates me for being a Penguin fan. In fact, when Matt Cook hit Savard, he acted like I hit Savard. Like, he wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't, and
Oh, Matt Cook is a goon.
oh, absolutely. I totally, well, he was, at least. I mean, he's,
Well, he's definitely calmed down. I'm surprised to see he
Yeah.
has as many goals as he does.
he's not a bad hockey player. But anyway, the point is, he said something to me where he was like, the Bruins don't get any calls because they don't dive. And I was like, well, I can kind of see that. Like, they're tough and they stay up. I think Marchand is a little bitch, but I think he's a hell of a player. Like, I would love him on the Pens, absolutely. But it's true, and I remember watching a game, and I don't remember who it was against, but it was the Bruins against some other team, and the textbook boarding call where this year where if you extend your arms and push somebody, and that happened against Lucic, and they didn't call anything, and then obviously
that's true. Yeah.
Lucic went after the guy. He got the retaliatory penalty. But I just find it very inconsistent. Like, some days they're calling boarding, some days they're not. Some days,
I've seen some horrendous boarding calls where it was like, if you're gonna have your back turned to the play, and you get hit, and then yeah, it's boarding. But I've seen guys literally, they're sideways, like they hit them from the side, and they're calling boarding on some of them.
Yeah, dude, they're calling boarding on clean checks, like absolute clean checks, and it's on the player too. You can't turn your back. If you turn your back, that's on the player.
You can't put yourself in that position.
Right. You cannot do that. And if you do that, then that should not be a penalty. And I just feel like they've just been very, very inconsistent, and all the way around. And I definitely feel their makeup calls. I definitely feel that there are. We missed this, so we'll give you this. There's been penalties that just,
What do you think of Shanahan?
I think he's doing the best he can. I don't really have.
I'm trying to understand
one way or the other.
I'm trying to understand how, because we just had a guy suspended for leaving his feet on a check.
Who?
Harry Zollnercheck last Saturday.
I didn't see that game.
If he hadn't left his feet, it would have been the check of the friggin' year, because the guy had his head down, which is which is an absolute no-no.
Oh, of course.
You cut across center ice and your head's down, you're gonna get planted. So, if our guy hadn't left his feet, it would have been an amazing check, but he left his feet. So he got a 4-game suspension. No pass suspensions, nothing like that. So what I'm trying to figure out is how he gets 4-game suspension.
And Ovechkin doesn't get anything? Because he leaves his feet every time he fucking checks somebody?
That's true. But the comparison I was going to use is, you remember the Nashville-Detroit playoff series last year when Chris Webber literally took Henrik Zetterberg's head and smashed it into the glass, but got nothing.
Yeah, dude, it was like a wrestling thing. Yes, I do.
Like
See, I totally disagree with that. And leaving your feet. So what do you call that? A charge? I think it's a charge when you leave your feet.
Yeah.
But to be suspended for a charge, was the guy injured?
Yeah, he didn't get up.
Okay. I know Shanahan has been, doing his best to explain everything. But usually, if you don't have any priors, it's not a if it's suspendable, in their eyes, it's usually like a game, two at the most. I think
Yeah.
four is a bit much,
That's
but
what I said. I thought I saw the check and I'm like, that's a game. Easy, that's a game. And he got 4.
well, and the other thing is too, they have to understand that like sometimes momentum carries you off your feet. Now, if he purposely like propelled himself,
Yeah, he's not a dirty player. I mean, he's
right.
and he's not much of a hitter. I mean, I think you see a guy with his head down, you're going to take that hit. Anybody would. So, and it was open ice, so he had to have had speed cutting across.
I just
So definitely momentum carried him a little there.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and that's a fine line. I mean, and I've dirty hit when I think of like dirty hits or dirty hitters, it's somebody really going after the head or the knee. A charge when you're leaving your feet, like. I mean, was he take? I honestly didn't see the hit. Was he taking strides? Did he let up? Because again, if momentum is carrying you, that shouldn't be suspendable. But again, I got to bring up Ovechkin because every big check that he has, he propels himself into the player, and that's completely illegal. And he does it every fucking time he hits somebody. And I think he's been suspended once, twice, maybe.
Ovechkin?
Yeah.
Once or twice, yeah.
Hey, Jay, I'm loading up that video for you, man. It should be coming up real soon.
Wow, that was a hit.
That's a good hit, right?
Hey, man, here's the video in slow-mo, dude.
All right, buddy, I got to be honest. So I'm watching this hit in slow-mo, and he definitely left his feet. Like, on purpose.
I told you he left his feet.
Yeah, but that ain't no momentum. That was him jumping into him. And he hit him right in the fucking head with his elbow.
I don't think there was any elbow in that hit. Purposely.
Well, when you leave your feet, I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm watching this, and that's what I see. He definitely left his feet, and he definitely hit him in the head. That's probably why it was 4 games.
Before we wrap this up, what do you think of the 3 stars of the week?
Yeah, I'm down with that. Crosby being number 2. I'll take that.
What, 9 assists, 11 points in 4 games. That's not so.
That's not bad, huh?
What destroys me is the 1st and 3rd star are former Flyers.
Yeah, Brizgola or Bobrovsky and who's the 3rd star?
Jeff Carter, 6 goals.
Oh, dude, yeah,
games.
he's been on fire, man.
It's disgusting. You know what? It don't matter. He doesn't show up in the playoffs. But Bob, 4 wins, 4 games, .77 goals against, .972 save percentage, a shutout. Yes, please. Columbus 5 in a row, man. They're gonna start climbing.
Dude, I gotta say, for a Flyers fan, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime.